Hey everyone, welcome to the sky this month for January of 2026. Happy New Year everyone, and crazy isn't it how time flies? It's New Year already. Goodbye 2025 into 2026. Feels like just yesterday I was doing my first sky this month. What was it, November of 2024? Again, crazy how the time flies. Unfortunately for us, the last couple months haven't been so great with the weather from here in Hamilton. I know everyone's been itching for some clear skies, and we just haven't gotten them. So here's hoping that the next month or two, at least, we finally get that long-awaited spout of clear skies we've all been looking for. I know it's because a lot of you guys got new scopes and bought new scopes and received new scopes as gifts over Christmas, so we probably won't see anything until March, but that's the way it goes, isn't it? Such is the life of a amateur astronomer. But again, welcome to the sky this month for January of 2026. I'm going to cover from tonight on the 9th until our next meeting date on the 13th of February. And this month I didn't get any submissions for photos this month, and so we're skipping right to Stellarium. However, as always, if you have any photos you want me to share during my Sky This Month presentation, just go ahead and send them along to observing@amateurastronomy.org, and I will be happy to share them. Can be anything, iPhone photo, a sketch you made, a real nice fancy astro photo you spent 50 hours on with all the technical details. Doesn't matter, send it over. I'd be happy to share and happy to show it to the club. But again, so straight into Stellarium this month for the first time of the year. And I put out an EH article. It was pretty short, and it's going to be a short one this month. There's really not too much happening, at least planet-wise, really. It is kind of a dull month, unfortunately. It doesn't mean there isn't much to see. There's just there is one big notable event that I'll get to in a little bit, but otherwise it's a pretty quiet month, solar system-wise at least. But we will start off as we always do and run through the naked eye sky. And so here we are at 10 o'clock tonight on January 9th. This is just as all of you will be getting out of the meeting tonight. And so here we go, set from Hamilton, Ontario, looking over towards the western sky. And so over there in the west, you can see we have the fall constellations, Cetus and Pisces and Pegasus and Andromeda and Lacerta, all setting there fairly early on now by 10 o'clock or so. By midnight, they're all going to be down by the horizon. Still have Cygnus over here, completely set now by about 11 o'clock, and then over to the southwest and the south, we have Eridanus and Lepus, Columba and Fornax, those lesser known constellations I've spoken about before, all down there. They're of course going to come up over towards the west, but set relatively soon afterwards. So your fall constellations now, it's getting, well, it's early in the year, so obviously the fall has passed, so your fall constellations are setting. Moving up towards the zenith now, we have Perseus right here almost directly above us, and around it we've got Camelopardalis, Cassiopeia, Triangulum, Taurus, Auriga, all very well placed there right above your heads at zenith. And there's a lot to see in this area of the sky, of course. I've wrote about it and spoken about it in the last couple months. And again, this is the winter Milky Way passing here directly overhead and moving down towards the eastern and southern horizon, where here you have well up in the sky the winter constellations of Orion and Gemini and Canis Major, Monoceros, Canis Minor, and the winter triangle right there, Procyon, Betelgeuse, and Sirius right here, with the heart of that winter Milky Way right in the middle. And of course, there's so much to see here. Last month in my EH article, I laid out all the real famous, big, bright, and easy beginner objects that you can see in this area of the sky. And tonight and this month, I'm going to run through some of the lesser known objects and some of the more astrophoto friendly objects, because there's just so much to see here, especially if you have a big scope. It's just chock full of things to see. But moving on with the naked eye sky, down towards the east, we have Leo and Canis Venatici down here, Hydra and Sextans, Cancer over here, and this is the start of your spring constellations. And again, Leo is now fully risen by 10 p.m. And further on into the night, you'll get more of those spring constellations behind it, Virgo and Bootes. And then the summer constellations eventually coming up just before the sun rises. Finally, over to the north, Ursa Major, the Big Dipper, has made its way around the pole down the horizon and is starting to come up again high into the sky. We have Draco here around the Little Dipper and Cepheus over here towards the west. And so that is your naked eye sky for the early evening towards midnight for January. And so from there, we'll move over to the moon, and there are a few lunar events of note this month. We'll start off on the 14th here in the early morning. Let's say 6 a.m. and over in the south east. There you can see the moon right there, 6 a.m. before sunrise, very close to Antares in Scorpius over here. And that, of course, is a summer constellation, but it's that time of year again that they are popping up early in the morning. And you have a few different Messier objects and NGC objects right around the moon there. So there's some early morning observing for you on the morning of Valentine's Day. Now let's go over to the evening on the 22nd. Evening on the 22nd, it'll get bright here for a second. And it'll get dark again. So this is just after sunset on the 22nd over in the west. And there you can see the moon with Saturn right up there in the evening sky in the twilight. And it does get fully dark, and you'll still be able to see the two for a couple hours there in Aquarius. Pretty close over there. Not quite a conjunction, but you know what? Close enough that you can get a couple of nice views of both. And Neptune is trailing just behind Saturn right over there. Now on the 27th in the evening as well, let's skip ahead a little bit here. 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th. And we'll move back just a little, a couple hours at 8. 8 o'clock, 7. And there you can see the moon just misses an occultation of Pleiades in the evening. It does pass across M45, but it does so when the sun is up. But nonetheless, that is about a degree and a half away from each other. So that's a great binocular view right there, and a great wide field view, low power in a smaller scope. And as I say every time I come to Stellarium, I haven't figured it out yet, why not? But it does not seem to have a great photo for M45 here. So for any of our newer astronomers, it does not look as lame as that. Oh, there you go, a little bit too close. Doesn't look like that either. It's a mix between the two. But it doesn't look lame like that. You won't quite see that. But nonetheless, the moon and M45 together is just a fantastic conjunction, and it's so cool to see. And it is a really, really nice view. Again, binoculars, a small scope. You can see it in any scope, just low power, wide field. And it is a treat for sure. Now let's go over to the 30th in the evening. I'll zoom out a bit here. This is January 30th. And there you can see the moon, Jupiter, and Pollux right there forming a nice little triangle in the heart of Gemini. And that is in the evening as well. Skip ahead again towards the beginning of February on the 1st. And actually, let's see, yes, on the morning of the 1st, right before sunrise, so again, that's 6 a.m. low on the western horizon, you can see the moon and M44, the Beehive cluster. M44 is a very bright, very big, very beautiful Messier object, a nice, beautifully colored open cluster in Cancer the Crab. It is great in any scope. There's so many stars in it. It's just beautiful. And it is right along the ecliptic, which means that the moon occasionally does pass right in front of it. It just misses that tonight here on the 1st, but nonetheless, again, just like with the Pleiades a couple nights before, you are less than a degree away from it, and that is a great view in binoculars or a low power scope. So mark that down on the 1st, and then the next night, back in the evening, So let's go ahead one night and come back towards 8 o'clock or so. On the 2nd. So this is February 2nd. Around 8 o'clock, and February 2nd is a Monday night. And let's zoom in right here. You can see the moon and Regulus right there, and let's go minute by minute. Regulus, of course, is the brightest star in Leo the Lion. So we're at 8 o'clock, and let's skip ahead minute by minute till 8:48. And we will zoom in on Regulus here. So 8 o'clock, and there you can see the moon coming closer and closer and closer until at 8:48 it occults Regulus. That is, again, the brightest star in Leo, magnitude 1.35, and it is a full occultation we can see here from Hamilton beginning at 8:48. And of course, occultation means the moon passes in front of it from our perspective. So at 8:49, it begins to disappear, and then it is gone behind the moon until 9:50 p.m. when you can see it reappear on the other side of the moon. Right about now. So there you have it, February 2nd in the evening. There is a full occultation of Regulus by the moon. So mark that down because that is always a really, really, really great event to see. You can watch it in binoculars. You can watch it high power in your scope, low power in your scope. You can watch it with a refractor, a reflector, Schmidt-Cassegrain, anything, because the moon is so bright, obviously, and so big, and Regulus is a nice bright star, and it is just really, really cool to see, and it's a great event, especially for our beginner astronomers, to sit there, watch the moon slowly, minute by minute, move further and further towards the horizon, and Regulus come out the other side after you watched it get completely occulted. So mark that down in your calendars, starting around 8 p.m. on the night of February 2nd. And then a couple nights later, or a few nights later rather, on the 7th in the evening, in the early morning, around 1 a.m., we have the moon just a couple degrees away from Spica, which is the brightest star in Virgo right there. And that is a great little conjunction as well between the two. And so there is your lunar events for January and early February. And again, February 2nd, that is the big one for this coming month, so mark that down. Now, moving on to the solar system, Mercury, Venus, and Mars, the two inner planets, and then the first planet out from the Earth, of course. All three of them are too near the Sun this month for any good observing. So unfortunately, if you were trying to get a view of Mercury, or Venus, or Mars, this is not the month for you. That being said, let's go back to the 9th of January, right here, and let's go find Jupiter, the brightest planet, the king of planets, over here in Gemini. Where is Gemini? There we go. There is Jupiter tonight on the 9th, and as you can see, way high up there in the sky, and Jupiter will be visible almost all night long from now until our next meeting on February 13th. Right now, it sets when the sun rises. It's pretty close to, pretty close. It'll set when the sun rises, up all night long. On the 13th, date of our next meeting, it'll be setting around 4:50 a.m. Still effectively an entire night of observing, but there is plenty of opportunity, of course, as the month goes on to see Jupiter. And, of course, all of its Galilean moons here, night by night, dancing around the planet. Let's go back to the 9th for Saturn, the ring planet, and there is still a little bit of opportunity left to get some views of Saturn if you wish to. By this time, though, 1 a.m. tonight or tomorrow morning, Saturn has set, but we'll back it up to around 8 o'clock, and there you can see Saturn is still visible in the southwest, but as the month goes on, it sets earlier and earlier, and by the end of the month, by the time it gets dark, Saturn will already have set. So, last couple weeks to get anything, any views, any photos that you want of Saturn. and it's nearly edge-on rings, and it's many, many moons. Now Uranus is up all night long in Taurus, right up there, and you can see nice high in the sky. And then Neptune, as I said earlier, follows very close behind Saturn. So again, any views you want of Neptune, furthest planet out, you have to get, because it follows along with Saturn and sets earlier and earlier until we get into February. And so that is your solar system. And then moving on to the deep sky. Like I said in my article, I'm going to skip month by month between beginner and intermediate objects and then more challenging objects. I want to try and get something for everyone. This month is one of the challenging object months, and like I mentioned in the article, this area of the sky here, the Winter Triangle, the heart of the Milky Way, is an astrophotographer's paradise and a deep sky observer's paradise, because there is so much to see right here, all the way from Auriga down towards Canis Major. So if we can get a little zoomed in here, you can see just how many different deep sky objects we have. Here on Stellarium, the dotted circle is an open cluster. The little target shape here is planetary nebula. Emission nebulas are right here. Little green squares, H2 regions. And then globulars are the crosshairs, and there should be a globular here. The crosshairs like this. And so as I zoom in even more, you can see just how many different objects there are to see. Galaxies as well. Of course, a lot of these ones that I'm zooming in now are dimmer, and a lot of them are astrophotographers' objects. But nonetheless, if you have a nice bigger scope, or if you want to try and knock off some lesser known and dimmer, more but interesting nonetheless, some lesser known and dimmer Messier and NGC objects, this is the place to do it, because you can take your scope and start down along the horizon here, and you can just get open cluster to open cluster to open cluster with tons of cool little treats mixed in, like our planetary nebulas. Here, for example, the albino butterfly nebula, NGC 2440. Of course, these are all magnitude 9 to 10 objects, so they are a little bit more difficult. You're going to need a bigger scope, dark skies, and higher magnification. But there is a lot to see. The Calabash Nebula, this one's particularly hard. It says magnitude 9.91, but it's very, very small, very, very difficult to see. But that is a good challenge object right there. The Rotten Egg Nebula, especially for astrophotographers. Right here, NGC 2438. Lots of different planetary nebulas in this area of the sky for you to try and spot. Now, you don't usually think of planetary when you think of the winter Milky Way. You think more of spring when it comes to planetary nebula. But there are plenty around here for you to get, and they're all very, very challenging. Right here, magnitude 10.5, IC 2165. Good luck seeing that one. If Stellarium doesn't have a photo of it, it's probably not that easy to spot. But as you can see, so much to spot and so much to see. And a lot of these, of course, are astrophotographers' objects. You might be able to see some of these nebulous regions here in the scope from very, very, very dark skies. And I'm talking very dark, like, Cherry Springs or the Adirondacks or somewhere way up northern Ontario. But otherwise, a lot of these emission regions, the Angel Nebula, for example, right here, the Witch's Head Nebula, the California Nebula, a lot of these are astrophotographer objects. This is an emission nebula right here, magnitude 9.5. You'll have a lot of difficulty trying to pick out these regions in a scope, but for astrophotographers, there is just so much in the area for you to see. Right over here, as I mentioned, the Witch's Head Nebula, that is a favorite. Reflection Nebula, very, very beautiful area of the sky. Very large nebula with low surface brightness. Or up over here, the Cosmic Bat Nebula, also known as the Fox Face Nebula. This is another astrophotographer's object. Orion has plenty and plenty of these. Right here, of course, we have the Flame Nebula, NGC 2024. You can see this one in a scope. It's very, very, very difficult, and that will be your challenge object for this month, actually, is to try and spot NGC 2024. You're going to need a really, 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 really dark sky, a really big scope. Not easy. I've seen it before from Cherry Springs, actually. Must have been 10 years ago. You're going to need those dark skies, and you're going to need a lot of patience and a lot of luck to see anything in here. But of course, for our astrophotographers, right around Alnitak here, you set your scope up. I'm not an astrophotographer, so you know what to do, but you know the deal. You have the Flame Nebula there, you have the Horsehead Nebula down here, and this is such a famous area for astrophotographers because, again, there is just so much that you can do. You can spend nights and nights and nights and hours and hours and hours picking out all the different objects around here. The Rosette Nebula as well in Monoceros, Dreyer's Nebula, another hydrogen 2 region, NGC 2175, open star cluster with the nebulosity around it, and IC 444, the reflection nebula right here. Sorry, the Jellyfish Nebula, IC 443 is the one I was thinking of. Supernova remnant right here, another astrophotographer object. And so, like I said, this area of the sky hosts some of the most famous, the biggest and brightest, easiest objects for beginners to see, but it also presents a lot of challenges for our more advanced visual observers and for our astrophotographers. And luckily, it is up for the next couple months, so train your scopes over here towards Orion and the Winter Triangle and try and spot out some of these fainter and dimmer NGC objects, all the planetary nebula in this area of the sky, and get some of those astrophotographers' objects as well. And you will not be bored. And so that is our sky this month for January of 2026. I hope and pray that we all get some clear skies soon. And if we do, you know the deal. Send me your shots, send me your stories, observing at amateurastronomy.org, and I will see you all again in February. Clear skies.